SuperCoach. I'm your mate Jim from NFL Straya, NBA Straya, and a bunch of other stuff. What a week it was in the NFL for week one. And this is the week one wrap of Jim Does SuperCoach, right? So each week we're going to wrap up all the biggest movers and shakers, all the flops and surprises, all the good stuff each week. And I'll tell you, week one in the NFL, we wrapped it up on NFL Straya, but obviously, as expected, Daniel Jones and Justin Fields tied with Lamar Jackson for the second most points this week. SuperCoach is a harsh mistress, and none more harsh than week one. We had a couple of big flops. We'll talk about them. We had some big surprises. We'll hit on them. We're also going to go through like the top performers at every position, and then look at maybe some trades that we're looking to make in week two, and maybe hit on a little bit of draft stuff as well if you're out there on the waiver wire scouring it for a bargain bin running back perhaps. And then also have a quick look at the rookies, so a rookie check-in. So this is Jim Does SuperCoach, the NFL Week 1 wrap show. And I'll tell you what, the Week 1 average score in NFL SuperCoach Classic was 421. I hope you did okay. I hope you did better than that. I did a little bit better. I was 467, which put me about 6,000 overall. So 21, I think top 21%, top 20%. Was really let down when you look at the rest of your team in a couple of places, right? And this is with the benefit of hindsight. Should have dug into this just that little bit more, thought about it a little bit more, let it percolate just a little bit, especially with the wide receivers. We should really be aiming for receivers going up against crummy secondaries, right? Because as we'll get into in a second, the top performers were the ones that really went up against really suspect Ds. Whereas a couple of my guys, I'm looking at you, Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, and Malik Neighbors, really let me down. And Jahmyr Gibbs, my big ticket running back, who I preferred over Bijan Robinson this year, was a bit of a letdown purely simply because the Detroit Lions sucked against the Green Bay Packers and that awesome defense of theirs, including, I don't know, a force of nature also known as Micah Parsons. So pretty crazy stuff where Gibbs lets me down. You've also got Ashton Genty not really tearing up that New England Patriots defense. Thought he'd at least break one big one off. He didn't quite get there. Bucky Irving was fine. So if you look at that sort of score of 467 versus the average of 421, that's pretty good. But if you look at the top scorers, they're the ones who might have had a Josh Allen, who ripped off a giant 77. I was feeling pretty okay about having Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, and then a couple of these other QBs that were not anywhere near as pricey as Hurts or Lamar really popped off. And this is a little bit when it comes to the SuperCoach strategy, right? I did see a bunch of folks out there in their flex position just spending that money elsewhere and going with a cheaper QB, which is pretty smart because of their scoring potential. You look at someone, we'll look at those top 5 QBs in 1 second. And if you had have slotted one of those in there, maybe spent that cash elsewhere, you could have been really right up there above 500. So 467, it was okay. Was feeling all right, but was very easily able to pinpoint exactly where my team let me down, right? It was Jahmyr Gibbs, not quite as good as Bijan Robinson, or even basically Genty not being as good as Derrick Henry, obviously, or Bucky Irving not being as good as Derrick Henry. And that combination, the 3 wide receiver combination that I had of Chase, Collins, and Neighbors versus maybe spending that money, maybe going a little bit cheaper than Chase up against the Browns in week 1, maybe having CD against that Philadelphia Eagles secondary, Puka Nacua up against the Texans, because Nico got shut down. Neighbors had a couple of big drops, which really, really hurt his score. He wasn't too bad overall. So there's at least a little bit of a chance that Neighbors bounces back pretty nicely next week, but Chase and Collins were the really tough ones. The kickers and stuff like that, it wasn't too bad, I think, this week for my team. The defense special team. So we talked about this in the team reveal the other day. I then, of course, re-kajiggered it all at the very last second and brought in the Denver Broncos defense. Thank God I did, because they were the top scoring D. I also, where did I find that money? Well, I cut all the money out of my kicker position because once teams were named for the actual NFL games, we had Andy Borregales for the Pats. He ended up as my starter. He scores 16 points, priced at 3.7 mil. Loved him. And Tyler Loop ended up being the Baltimore kicker, so chucked him as well. He ended up with 26, so massive cheapies there on your kicker spot. Laughing all the way to the bank. Spent that money elsewhere on the Denver Broncos. I had Trey McBride and Brock Bowers in my tight end spots. They did pretty well. The bench did okay as well. And Marion Hampton wasn't that awesome. Henderson wasn't that, amazing either as the running backs. Hunter and Golden as my backup wide receivers, not much there. JJ McCarthy, though, rips off 46 as my backup QB. Feeling pretty good about that. And 14 points from a backup defense special teams in the Pats. Great stuff there. So, Gibbs, not bad. McCaffrey, not bad with the 36. Bucky Irving, a very solid 24. Ashton Genty, a lot of upside, 4.6 mil. Scored his 21. Could have gone bigger. I already mentioned Chase, Collins, and Neighbours. A little bit disappointing with the 7 for Chase, the 8 for Collins, 19 for Neighbours, not too bad. A couple of those big drops that he had would have pushed his score pretty high. And my beloved Jackson Smith and Jigba. Very, very awesome start to his season. Felt great about that pick. He is the dude in Seattle. 29 points. Ted McMillan was pretty solid, the rookie, 18. But the big one for me, and absolutely stoked that I had him on the field, Emeka Egbuka with 42 points for the Bucks. Those tight ends of McBride and Bowers, 18 and 25 respectively. Loop and Borregales, 26 and 16 in the kicker spots. I think I started Borregales ahead of Loop. Not going to make that mistake again. Loop is on my field for next week. The Broncos D crushed it. And in my flex position, I had Hurts. In my starting QB spot, I had Lamar. So, in retrospect, could have saved a little bit of money on those top end. I should have basically pinpointed the crummy secondaries from my wide receivers to have a crack at. Gibbs with the 19 points, not quite that good compared to someone like, I don't know, Bijan, who smashed it because Michael Penix Jr. is just throwing in the ball 24/7. But we'll talk about trades at the end. We'll see how we go. At the moment, I feel okay with some of my lineups this week. The team is there. The rookies we've sort of nailed. We're feeling okay. We might be able to keep the trade gun dry. Just keep the powder dry for a second. But who were the best performers at every position in SuperCoach? Coach. Well, as I said at the top, as we all expected, Daniel Jones and Justin Fields tying with Lamar Jackson, the highest priced player in NFL SuperCoach. We all expected that. We also obviously all expected Justin Herbert, Juzzy Herbs, ripping off 55 points for the 5th highest score. But of course, the better ticket was Josh Allen. Sunday Night Football ripping off 77 points. It was chaos. He's finding Keon Coleman. He's running in his own touchdowns. He crushed it. Then the big surprises after that. Patrick Mahomes has 51 because of all of his rushing yards. He was the leading rusher. That's right, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't know if we can bank on that every week, but still. Aaron Rodgers throws 4 touchdowns, ends up with 51 points. Hurts in my flex position with 48. He's the 8th highest scoring QB. Caleb Williams at 47. A couple of touchdowns there for him, not bad. And Michael Penix Jr. I've got him in draft. Felt pretty good about that as well. He had 47. The rookie, JJ McCarthy, 46. And Baker at 44. Jaden Daniels, 39. Brock Purdy, 37. Kyler Murray, 36. So, with this in mind, if you had have cheaped out a little bit in that flex spot and actually run with maybe a JJ McCarthy and then another rookie on your bench, you would have been feeling okay with the 46. Considering the Hurts in my flex spot with the $24.9 million price tag only managed the 48 versus the 7 higher scorers in front of him. Really, if I had been able to get both Allen and Lamar, I would have been feeling great. But with the Jalen not quite smashing it out of the park against the Dallas defense the other day, look, I feel like we're going to be all right going into week 2. How about the running backs? Obviously at the top, Derrick Henry, absolutely trucking dudes, just pushing through everybody, going up against Buffalo. He crushed it. 56 points, and that came with a fumble late. Bijan Robinson with 42. Javonte Williams, big surprise there, 38. Christian McCaffrey with 36. James Cook, 36 as well. There's your top 5 running backs. I had Christian McCaffrey, and then outside of that, I'll tell you what, not great. Not bloody great at all. So when we get to the wide receivers, I'll break down how my roster sort of like, when you look at the numbers, you're just like, geez, that sort of stinks. The wide receivers obviously headed up by Zay Flowers. Obviously. 48 points up against that Buffalo D. Crushed it. And of course, Quentin Johnson. Second highest score at 44 points for the LA Superchargers. Keon Coleman in third at 42 points, tied with Emeka Egbuka. And then fifth, Garrett Wilson. Sure, all the worries we had about Juzzy Fields as the Jets QB. Doesn't matter, mate. He's just slinging it out there anyway. The tight ends, the 5 highest scorers there. Brock Bowers, 25, tied with Dalton Kincaid. Travis Kelce caught a nice touchdown as well. He had 23, same as Juwan Johnson. Sure, from the New Orleans Saints. And Tyler Warren, the rookie, on my bench. He scored 22. Looked pretty good. Kittle was the 6th-ranked tight end. He scored 21. He came out of my team for McBride late. McBride didn't quite hit those heights. He finished with the 18, but still, Kittle, now under injury cloud. You'll have to trade him out. Kickers, look, yeah, Spencer Schrader. That's right. Spencer Schrader for the Colts with 32. Cam Little with 30 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Joey Sly for the Titans with 30 as well. Chris Boswell bombing that 60-yarder really helped that one late for him, 28. And Kaimi Fairbairn with 28. Tyler Loop, who I've got on my team now, 26 points there too. For the defense special teams, they were headed up by the Denver Broncos, the 28 points for them up against the rookie Cam Ward. Love that matchup. Indianapolis Colts, 26, because they crushed the Dolphins. The Bears had 22, so did the Rams, so did the Niners, so did the Jags. And there are the top ones. So the biggest sort of flops out of week 1 of SuperCoach, just say Cincinnati, Jim. Because it was essentially, look, Chase Brown wasn't too bad, but Joe Burrow, 17 points, priced at $26.4 million. That sucked. Jamar Chase, $23.5 million, owned by every man and his dog. 61% of teams had Jamar Chase, and he got us 7 points. So at least we were all in the hurt locker together. And T. Higgins, the other Bengals wide receiver, 9 points at $18.1 million. If you just think about your price your dollars per point, absolutely brutal gear for those dudes, right? That entire Cincinnati offense just looked stanky against Cleveland. The other bigger flops, I mean, especially the higher price ones, you think about Jameer Gibbs with 19 points at $23.1 million. Obviously, I loved him over Bijan. Just that Green Bay defense was just too good. I thought he might, like with his work in the passing game, and he still got a lot, you thought the upside would be there. It wasn't quite there. Bo Nix had a bit of a rough one. 17 points, $22.6 million he costs. If you were putting all your eggs in the Bo Nix basket, bit of a tough one. Amon Ra. I love me some Amon Ra St. Brown, the sun god. 13 points. Not great for his $17.9 million price tag. Kenny Walker, the Seattle running back, 2.2% of ownership. $16 million. You got your 7 points. Pretty tough. How about mine? Nico Collins with his 8 points. He's owned by 19% of coaches at the $17.3 million price tag. That was tough, Nico Collins. You're breaking my heart. And Malik Neighbors, 19 points with his $17.1 million price tag. He's owned by 20% of coaches as well. The toughest one, I reckon, for one of the wide receivers, the biggest flops, A.J. Brown. He scored 2 points back then on Friday morning. He's owned by 6.3% of coaches. Price is $16.5 million. That was a rough one. So 4 of the 6 most owned wide receivers were kind of right? You had 7 points for Chase. Matty Golden only had 5 points. Hunter had 12, 18 for Tet. Not that great, right? So what do? Well, 2 of my wide receivers are in the top 25. 4 of my running backs are in the top 25. Not quite good enough. We're going to try to pinpoint those good ones for next week, don't we? Because the biggest surprise is 58 points rather for Juzzy Fields. Justin Fields, the New York Jets quarterback, crushing it. Owned by 2.3% of coaches. Priced at $13.9 million. Love that for him. And same with Justin Herbert. 55 points, owned by 1.1% of us. That's pretty crazy. Aaron Rodgers only owned by 0.6% of coaches. He had 51. And Michael Penix Jr. Priced at $9.6 million. Got us 47 points. He was unreal. Emeka Egbuka just going that hard, that early, $4.4 million he costs. He's on 52% of teams. That's a big thumbs up for everybody. Rips off the 42. Obviously, the biggest surprise for the wide receivers was Zay Flowers being that good. He was owned by 6% of teams, like costing $11.7 million. 48 points was still complete chaos for Zay Flowers. Quentin Johnson, 0.3% ownership mark for 44 points. Not bad. Garrett Wilson, the 38 as well. He's only owned by 2.1% of folks. $13.9 million price tag for him. So Flowers, Johnson, and Garrett Wilson. Will they back this up again next week? Beware this trap. I'm not entirely convinced that they'll get that many targets and that amount of touchdown equity. Like you think about Quentin Johnson, you think about Zay Flowers. They're very good. They are a bit boom or bust. Garrett Wilson might be a little bit more solid, but I just don't know about the Justin Fields throwing game. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a little bit different. He's only priced at 12.1 mil. He was great in that game for the Arizona Cardinals. 31 points for him. Deebo Samuel had 37. He was very good. Michael Pittman Jr., as the Colts ran right over the top of the Dolphins. I have him in draft. Felt pretty good about that because he had 34. Keon Coleman had 42. He's priced at 9.4 mil. Owned by 5% of coaches. That was awesome. And Hollywood Brown, 0.5% ownership. He was great. 29 points there too. For the running backs, you think about Javonte Williams at 38 points that he had against the Eagles was pretty crazy. Just turns out he's the best running back Dallas have. And Travis Etienne, not dead yet. They just traded away Tank Bigsby as well. 33 points for the Jags running back. Owned by 2% of coaches. Pretty good vibes there. The tight ends, not too many surprises there apart from your man, Juwan Johnson, and of course, Harold Fannin Jr. Because sure, David Njoku there in Cleveland, he'll be fine. Kyle Pitts was heard from as well. He had 18. Sam Laporta was very solid with 21. Noah Fant, he was the only Cincinnati Bengal. Like Chase Brown had 23, but still. Juwan Johnson, should we be rushing out to replace George Kittle, Juwan Johnson? I don't know. I just don't trust that Saints offense in the least behind Spencer Rattler. But still, I don't know. Not too bad. The kicking, no massive surprises there. They're all going to be very, very lumped together. You sort of think about the worst ones are obviously Matt Gay for the Commanders, Josh Carty for the Rams. Two rough games. Schmidt scored 10 points. Fitzgerald 10. Evan McPherson, I jumped off him. Luckily, he had 10 points. Jake Moody, he's now being cut. He had 10. And Chase McLaughlin, who was my kicker to start off this sort of thing before I went cheap, he only managed 12. So I was pretty happy I dodged that bullet. Borregales, old Andy, not too bad for him for the Pats. Feeling very good about Tyler Loop, though. So if you don't have him, I'd be all over that. Speaking of which, other rookies that we're keen on after week 1, Bill Koski Merritt, that's right. Ja'Cory Koski Merritt, he had 28 points, owned by 2.3% of coaches, $3.7 million. He was fantastic for Commanders against the Giants. Dylan Sampson looked unreal for the Browns. He scored 25 points. He's the $3.7 million running back for the Cleveland Browns. The problem is Quinshon Judkins might be back next week, so just keep an eye on that. Travion Henderson, 15. He's owned by almost half of the coaches in NFL SuperCoach. And RJ Harvey, 15 points as well for him. He's owned by 17%. Amari Hampton, bit of a weird one for the Chargers. They tried to run the ball. Juzzy Herbs was almost too good. Amari Hampton ends up with 13 points, and he's owned by 55% of coaches because he's so cheap. I expect Bill to continue to do pretty well with all of the work that he's going to get for the Commanders' backfield. Same with Sampson. I reckon this week they'll keep rolling him out there. It was good to see him used in the passing game as well. But Judkins maybe returning the week after could be a bit of a problem. Henderson will be fine. RJ will be fine. Hampton will be fine as well. And if you think about other rookie running backs, look, obviously Genty's still a rookie too. He's in most teams. Get all over that. You got to give these guys another week and then we'll see who's on the bubble. Because beware the week 1 bolter when it comes to rookies. Tech McMillan for the wide receivers, 18 points, 4.6 mil. He crushed it. Tesla was not too bad as well for Detroit, 15 points. Travis Hunter only 12. Matt Golden, 5 points. And Emeka Egbuka absolutely crushes at 42. There'll be more that we talk about next week who go on to the bubble, but that's the rookies that we're looking at the moment. So very good gear there. The other rookies, if you don't have Tyler Warren as your backup tight end, what are you doing? He scored the 22 points. He was fantastic. Outside of that, Harold Fannin Jr., look, if you want to get a cheapie, he might get some more work. He scored 19 points as well. And Jake Tongues, 18 points for the Niners. Without Kittle, priced at 3.7 mil, what do you reckon? Can Mac Jones sling him the ball maybe if Brock Purdy's out as well? So there you go. Remember to keep an eye on the injuries heading into week 2 as well. So in terms of the trades that I'm looking at for this week, the ones that have been made the most so far, on NFL SuperCoach, Zay Flowers coming in. There's been 11% of trades have brought him in. Josh Allen, obviously after he's 77, he will go up in price. Keon Coleman, fine. Still priced at 9.4 mil. He's going up against the Jets defense next week. Derrick Henry's gone in as well, and Quentin Johnson. Not a surprise for all those five. The traded out players, Jamar Chase. This is an interesting one. Do you trade Jamar Chase out this week and try to avoid the price drop that will come in week 3? Do you try to get ahead of it? 6.5% of the trades made so far have gotten Jamar Chase out of there. So Nico Collins is there as well. Same with Jahmyr Gibbs. Amarian Hampton, there's no real point trading him yet. And Matthew Golden, same sort of thing, despite his 5 points. It was pretty rough. He might have a massive week this week. We saw Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams not do too badly against that Texans secondary. So would I be trading out someone like Chase or Collins this week or Gibbs to someone who might be a bit cheaper? This is where it all comes down to what are you looking at? What strategy you're rolling with? Are you looking at the opponents? Are we trying to nail these ones? And this week, it feels a bit janky. I don't really want to trade out Chase. He's going up against a Jags team that looked pretty good against Carolina, but he could absolutely tear it up, have over 120 yards and a touchdown or two, and just be the Jamar Chase that we know. Whereas Nico Collins, it's a little bit of a trickier one because Houston go up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Bucs look solid defense, not too bad. I feel like if I'm going to trade someone out and avoid a bit of a price drop, it might be Nico this week. He had the 8 points this week, 17.3 mil. Maybe, just maybe, he might be the one that you sort of move to Zay Flowers. Maybe you want to ride a bit of that price train. But the other players at that sort of actual price point, it's a little bit wobbly, right? And I still kind of trust Nico Collins in the volume that he's going to get. Purely because he's really, really good. And I think that CJ Stroud will continue to try to just pepper him. Puka Nacua might be the one you side trade from Nico Collins if you want. But really, when it comes to SuperCoach, I'm pretty all about not trading primos. You trust them for a reason. We can sort of obviously, with all the trades, we've got 26 trades across this season. We can make some, adjustment trades. But Nico will be good. Malik Neighbors will be good. Neighbors, though, can Russell Wilson actually hit him? That was a worrying sign, wasn't it? The Giants this week as well go up against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not so worried about that one. I think Neighbors will be heard from. So I think keeping my powder dry for week 2 just to sort of see how this all lays. We might talk about this later when we drop our week 2 team reveal on Friday. But for the minute, going to leave it as is without maybe getting too crazy. Maybe Gibbs to Bijan is maybe something we're looking at because Atlanta take on Minnesota. That's going to give me pause though as well because you look at what Chicago did. They couldn't do much on the run against the Vikings. So maybe we steer clear of Bijan and we trust Detroit going up against that Chicago defense as well. That didn't look great against the Vikings, to be honest. So I think Jahmyr Gibbs will be heard from. McCaffrey was fantastic. Bucky Irving, look, that's a bit of a rough one up against Houston this week as well, I think. But you can probably ride him and see if he just rips off a big touchdown and enough yards. So basically the adjustment trades, it's maybe Nico. If you want to just basically keep Chase at that price point or try to make a little bit of money by moving him down to somebody who's going to make a bit of cash, it's fine. But he could also really come back and bite you and crush in week 2 because since he played against a Jags team that don't really frighten me. So outside of that, I feel okay about Hurts, feel okay about Jackson. Probably not going to screw around with the QB and flex position too much this week. Sort of see how it all rolls. But that's week 1 for the minute. Let us know how you went. Send in the DMs. Smash us all across all the socials. Get around all the Jim Does SuperCoach stuff. Obviously, NFL Australia breaking down all of week 1, setting up week 2 for you as well. Let us know what else you want to hear about on Jim Does SuperCoach. This has been awesome. How good was week 1? That's Jim Does SuperCoach for week 1.